Good evening. This is ENCA Moneyline, your money guide. My name is Sikim Kabadeli. Coming up on the show tonight. South Africa's current account deficit drops, but disappoints as the rand takes a big hit. South Africans spend close to 4 billion rand on fast food a year. And we unpack how stokvels have changed the way South Africans save for their future. All of this and more coming up, but first, here are your top stories. Well, government is making some progress when it comes to debt. The current account deficit for the third quarter has dropped to 6% of GDP. That's a 0.3 percentage point fall since the second quarter, with debt now sitting at 230 billion rand for the July to September quarter. The amount is higher than anticipated, but economists say it's encouraging. Ratings agencies have warned that South Africa must reduce its debt levels. The current account deficit indicates that the country is paying more to foreign investors than it's receiving from them. Fitch is set to deliver its ratings update on Friday.
Very high probability of a further downgrade to about BBB minus from Fitch, and also S&P is due to review the country. This is negative for South Africa. It's negative for our debt profile for companies that are trying to raise debt outside. It will be much more difficult if we get downgraded, and also if we get downgraded to the point where we are junk. It simply means that we will not be able to raise debt externally.
Well, the rand has hit its worst level against the US dollar in 6 years. The collapse came as the third quarter current account deficit narrowed slower than the market had expected. The 1% fall in the rand now sees it at levels last seen in 2008. Lingering deficits of the current account and national budget have made the rand more vulnerable to losses. Investors dump emerging market assets as they flee risky investments. The budget deficit remains higher than government's target, while prolonged labour stoppages hampered growth in 2014. Analysts are saying this and the lack of reliable electricity will only add to the list of negatives currently facing the country. The rand hit 11.49 against the dollar before 2 p.m. today. Better consumer spending decisions have resulted in improvements in the local economy in the third quarter. The South African Reserve Bank says government spending, however, slowed to a growth level of 1.4%. But it's all in line with government's plans to contain spending and close large budget deficits. But there's still some concern as household consumption picked up slightly due to higher wage increases. The improvement was also a good sign that platinum mine workers are back and spending in the economy. Well, South Africa's energy needs are far-reaching, with a solution set to take a lot of time and more money than the country can afford. But what are the alternatives? Well, to help get some, we are joined now in studio by Brian Day, who's with the South African National Energy Association. Brian, thanks so much for joining us today. How bad is our situation? Give it to us.
I think it is very bad, and I think that's part of what we as a country need to acknowledge. I was at the NEDLAC Quarterly Exco last week, and to the credit of the Energy Minister, who together with her acting DG was there to present to community, labour and the business and government delegations, was prepared to use the word crisis.
Yeah.
And I think that is an applaudable step.
Okay.
We need to get to that point where we can actually then, together as a country, really start to solve the problems.
Okay, so we're acknowledging that we've got a crisis, but there are short, medium-term and long-term requirements that are needed right now. Is there anything we can do in the short term besides load shedding?
I think there are some short-term objectives. We need to look at some of the integrated demand management programs and re-establish those. There's been some changes in terms of the way that's been allowed to happen by NERSA, trying to remove it.
What does that mean? What are
NERSA being the National Energy Regulator of South Africa, they've tried to take the funding away from Eskom to put the responsibility within the Department of Energy, so that you don't have the same entity that is supplying power, encouraging people to use less of their product.
Okay.
So it's going back into the Department of Energy, and they are putting a program together to actually re-establish that. We need to roll out more of the solar water heater program as part of that, but we also need to encourage industrial cogeneration. Anything where you have waste heat or waste combustible energy, we should be doing cogeneration. We should also be encouraging gas. All of these things government and business are working on, but I think we need to get a conversation going between government and business to a deeper level. Build the trust and resolve the problems together.
All right, let's talk about the consumer side and particularly the demand side. For a number of years now, we've been told cut back, switch off your geyser, turn off appliances that you're not using. Has that been working?
I think it has worked very well. The program on TV3 where they actually give the power meter used to have had a very good impact on the consumers. But I think it's unfair to only ask the consumers to do it out of their own free will. We should be putting differential tariffs in place. We should be encouraging people with cheaper tariffs outside of the peak and with punitive tariffs during the peak. We should positively incentivize people to actually go with that behavior.
Okay, so there's the Renewable Energy Independent Power Producers Procurement Program. Very long title, meaning that we are seriously trying to look at alternatives here. But how far are we from a situation where we can actually look at alternatives in conjunction with Eskom?
That renewable program with the 4 Ps at the end is working very well. There's already 1,339 megawatts connected to the grid out of 2,409 megawatts in the first few rounds of the program. We are imminently going to sign up between government, Eskom and those entities the 3rd round of that program. It is going very well. It's a world-renowned program. We need to do other things with other technologies as well, because renewables, we have to acknowledge, is variable. It's not always there when you need it, although there is some predictability to it. But government is about to issue similar programs in cogeneration, in coal, and the coal program, we believe, is in fact imminent. It was said last week that it should be out this year, the cogeneration program early next year. But we should also move beyond just government programs. We should go to more of a market economy where you can actually have private power purchases and wheeling across the grid, where again, nurses' role is absolutely paramount, to redefine the tariff structure so that it actually makes it profitable for private entities to generate power and sell to a private off-taker, independent of Eskom being the single buyer. So
currently it's not attractive to
it's not attractive because of the way the tariffs are structured. It's technically and legally possible, but it hasn't happened in many cases because of the way the tariff structures are set out, especially when it goes from a municipality into the Eskom grid and back into a municipality again. You've got multiple surcharges, which 1 are different and 2 are big, and that's what NERSA is busy sorting out in conjunction with Eskom, Energy Intensive User Group, the IPP Association, and the AMEU from the municipality side. So they've just launched some work in that area.
All right, looks like there's a lot of players in the mix, so hopefully some good ideas coming through. Thanks, Brian. Brian Day is Managing Director of the South African National Energy Association. Now, the world's second largest economy is grappling with slow global activity and weak domestic demand. Having already cut interest rates in an effort to boost growth, China's economy is under severe pressure to grow at 7%.
China's export engine is losing steam faster than expected. It's raising concern that the world's second largest economy could be facing a sharper slowdown. November exports rose 4.7% from last year, significantly lower than expected. Its raw material import dropped 6.7% last month, raising concern that things could get much worse.
And this, of course, puts then the question, what can the government do about this? We've already seen stimulus coming through in terms of lower interest rates. We expect that some of the reserve requirements will be cut. So I do think that that's another data point which suggests that this is quite likely to take place.
Last month, Beijing cut interest rates for the first time in over 2 years. The surprise move was an indication of the government's concern for growth. The data is likely to set the tone for this week's meeting, where China's top economic officials are expected to lower the 2015 growth targets to 7%. But even that is looking increasingly difficult to reach.
After the break, we take a look at a different kind of saving mechanism and see how it's helping South Africans change into a saving nation. You're watching ENCA Moneyline, your money guide. Don't go away.